My twin got a Jeep for graduation. I only got a lottery ticket. But it won $5 million. Am I the asshole for keeping it a secret? For my brother's graduation, my parents got him a brand new Jeep. I only received a lotto ticket. The scent of burgers on the grill every weekend, split-level homes with American flags flapping on porches, and neighbors who smiled at you but started gossiping the moment you left made growing up in the peaceful suburbs of Chicago feel like living in every teen movie ever filmed. My relatives? Traditional middle class. Dad was a logistics worker. Mom balanced excessive couponing with PTA meetings. Next came Jake, my twin brother, and me. Jake was that guy, prom king material, high school football standout, and somehow always tan, even in February. At least once a week, teachers would give him that "you'll go far" speech, and girls would trip over themselves around him. Me? Stacking shelves to save money for college was me, the twin with the Target name tag. I was in the high school chess club on Tuesday nights, if Jake was in the Super Bowl. But no ill will. Well, a bit, perhaps. Like when you know your brother stole the last piece of pizza without even checking, we were connected in that strange twin telepathy manner. But I just wanted to get out, while Jake revealed his attention. For me, college was more than simply a place to study. It was a means of escape. Jake's never-ending parties, my late-night essays, and our parents' intense graduation preparations made up my senior year. Mom got lost in Pinterest boards for the perfect graduation celebration, complete with themed cupcakes, fairy lights, and an excessively journey-themed playlist. Dad? Whether renting a margarita machine would make him the cool dad or get him kicked out of the next HOA meeting was the subject of his internal conflict. We always knew he'd make it big, said random neighbors, and Jake received months of congratulations after securing a full-ride football scholarship to Michigan. Me? I was keeping track of the days till I got out of state college. It was my opportunity to be just Zach at last, even though it wasn't the Ivy League. Not the twin of Jake, just me, not the other one. The days leading up to graduation were quite stressful. Jake was inundated with texts from girls organizing post-graduation vacations, in addition to rehearsals and parties. I worked double shifts at Target, and my potential roommate sent me an email asking whether I was okay with bringing a small refrigerator. Fantastic moments. Jake and I ended up on the roof of the garage one evening while Mom worried about seating charts and Dad tried to decide how many hot dogs was too much. It was where we were. A spot where there would be no noise and we could just be two brothers. Jake was excited about football glory, tailgating, and living in a dorm. I pretended not to imagine a world in which I wasn't only his sidekick as I listened. Everyone was excited about the surprises graduation would bring, and the big day was quickly approaching. Jake? He most likely anticipated something from a sports film. Me? My breath wasn't held. But now that I think about it, I should have known better. Jake was going to get something big, I knew. I simply never imagined that my gift would completely upend the world. It was like entering one of those high school films that always looked too good to be true on graduation day. The gym was decorated with gold and blue streamers, huge balloons that said Class of 2024, and a photo booth where people waited in line to take photographs wearing fake diplomas and huge sunglasses. The space was still haunted by the scent of cafeteria pizza from previous lunches, but nobody seemed to mind. Naturally, Jake was in his element as he grinned effortlessly and received applause from his peers as if he had just won the Super Bowl. Speeches that attempted too hard to be amusing, a choir performance that left me wondering whether any of them had practiced, and me sitting there contemplating my next Target shift made the ceremony itself drag on longer than a line at Starbucks on a Monday morning. With the kind of fervor typically reserved for lottery winners, Jake's name was called. It was more along the lines of, "Oh, right, him too." At least I didn't trip while crossing the stage, though. Little victories. The mayhem that followed was unbelievable. Mom was crying as if we were leaving for Mars. Dad is clumsily recording every second with his phone. I was pulled into hugs that went on for far too long by relatives I hardly knew. Jake's fan club mobbed him. Like I was in the NFL myself, I largely avoided questions about my future and nodded along with idle talk. At home, our backyard appeared to have been lifted straight out of a Pinterest board, complete with fairy lights, a table piled high with mini sliders, chips, and hot dogs, and a cooler filled with enough Coca-Cola to last through the night. Jake's group, all wearing polos and suspiciously new Class of 2024 t-shirts, arrived like a wave, each one louder than the previous. Next door, I saw Mr. Thompson smuggling another plate of sliders while feigning to socialize. Jake, most likely, made the decision that hiring a limo was the best course of action. The next thing I knew, we were huddled inside, listening to old songs from a playlist someone had discovered on Spotify from the early 2000s, stopping at Taco Bell and Starbucks because, apparently, a graduation night wouldn't be complete without nachos and coffee. Jake took in everything, including the constant attention, the selfies, and the giggles. Me? I relaxed while drinking my Coke, making jokes, and pondering whether or not anyone paid any attention to me. We held our drinks like Oscars during the traditional Starbucks photo op. And for a brief time, I thought perhaps this was my chance as well. When the celebration reached its climax at home and the fairy lights began to flicker in the muggy night air, Mom and Dad called everyone inside for the moment they had all been anticipating, the presents. Jake appeared about to explode, already envisioning the big surprise our parents had planned for him. Me? All I could hope was that my gift wasn't socks. I was certain that Jake would give me a memorable gift. But it was what I wouldn't get, not what he would, that troubled me. The suspense in the living room was palpable. Jake was literally bouncing off the walls, already seeing himself driving whatever fantastic present our folks had planned. Between sips of Mountain Dew and nibbles of pizza, his companions, stretched across our faded leather couch and half-empty beanbags, muttered estimates. A sports vehicle? A motorbike? A boat, perhaps? Surely Jake deserved something ostentatious. Mom gave him a key fob while fighting back tears like we had won the lotto. Louder than a Bears touchdown, the room exploded. Everyone followed Jake like groupies pursuing a rock star as he ran out the door. A new Jeep Wrangler Rubicon was parked in the driveway, shining in the streetlight. From the top down. Shut the doors. The type of vehicle designed to create memories at Lake Michigan while listening to country music. Jake's smile was as big as the skyline of Chicago. As if he was already halfway to the shore, he climbed in and revved the motor. His phone paired with Bluetooth more quickly than my Wi-Fi ever could, and all of a sudden Morgan Wallen began singing about highways and heartbreak. Jake in his classic form. I remained behind, taking it all in. This wasn't shocking. The golden boy was Jake. The hero of the hometown. He would get a Jeep, of course. Dad gave me a shoulder slap as if to warn me of bad news. I was given a little white envelope by Mom. No keys. No big bow, paper only. There was silence in the room. Awkward silence. Trying to convince myself it would be something cool, I opened it. A check for college? Perhaps? Cubs tickets? Perhaps. Within, a $25 gift card to Best Buy, a lotto ticket too. Now for the uncomfortable giggles. The king of terrible timing and my best friend since 3rd grade, Sam, poked me and muttered, "Hey, at least now you can finally buy the Xbox controller you've been complaining about." I made myself laugh. When life gives you a slap in the face disguised as a gift, what else do you do? Jake's pals hardly paid any attention. They were already fighting about who should be shotgun and were too busy cramming themselves into the Jeep. Mom gave me a deep hug while murmuring about the big things that lay ahead, but Jake's shouting that they were going to Dairy Queen and the sound of the Jeep's engine overpowered her words. Dad nodded at me. "You're aware of it." They nod like a chin-up youngster. I sneaked out the back door after shoving the envelope into my pocket. I felt protected on the porch. The sound of lawnmowers in the distance. The subtle aroma of hamburgers from a neighbor's grill. And me, using a coin I discovered in my trousers to scratch a losing lotto ticket. Numbers. I gazed at the gift card as though it had answers. Jake gained liberty, excitement, and limitless opportunities. My target salary was worth more than the plastic I received. The worst part though? Everyone seemed to have anticipated this. As if I were the one who didn't require the large items. Sam probably grabbed 2 Cokes from our cooler and spotted me outside with them. With his trademark sneer, he opened his can and sat next to me. Tough break, man. But hey, no one's going to ask you for rides now. I chuckled. This time it was a real one. As Jake's Jeep vanished into the darkness, we sat there drinking Coke. For the remainder of the celebration, I grinned. Played along. Even, like a nice brother, congratulated Jake. But that night, something broke inside of me. And I was unaware of it at the time. But that little crack? Everything was about to change. I felt as though I had just been benched during the championship game when I got home. Jake was likely planning weekend getaways to Lake Michigan with his pals while driving his brand new Jeep and listening to country music. Me? I was thinking how my life had devolved as I stood in front of the freezer and took out a frozen DiGiorno pizza. As I leaned against the counter and idly browsed Instagram, the microwave hummed. Graduation photos flooded my Facebook, including corny group pictures and caps thrown in the air. Naturally, Jake's Jeep has previously been seen. His caption, "New wheels, new adventures, Lake Michigan, we comin'." Jeep life, inner blessed. I let out a sigh, enjoying the post only by default, despite the fact that it tightened my chest. I was startled out of my doom scroll by the timer's buzzer. After grabbing my pizza, I balanced the plate on my lap and collapsed onto our old plaid couch. The scent of disappointment and pepperoni filled the living room. I browsed Netflix till I came upon The Office. It was my first choice? The awkwardness of Michael Scott somehow lessened the tragedy of my own life. Jim's tricks on Dwight were hilarious. Let's be honest, I might be able to handle being Jake's twin if Pam could handle a relationship with Roy. Memories intruded like unexpected visitors as I chewed on it. On that particular Christmas morning, Jake opened a brand new PlayStation 5, and I received a $50 gift card to Amazon. He dismissed Madden right away. I came to the realization that $50 would not even buy a new controller. Or when our parents took Jake to Disney World to celebrate his outstanding football season the summer after his freshman year. Grandma Doris and her infinite collection of ceramic cats were left behind. What does she consider to be fun? Pointing out my posture and teaching me how to knit. The little things hurt too. On more occasions than I can remember, Jake was given the last piece of pizza. Football practice was a good reason, so he never had to mow the yard. Not to mention each time someone said, "You're Jake's brother, I see." As if that were my whole self. I grabbed another piece. I discovered I was down to 2. Fantastic. I was reminded that I always ended up with less, even by my pizza. It buzzed on my phone. Sam was there. He had the timing of a joke from a sitcom. "Dude, have you checked that lottery ticket yet?" I gave an eye roll. "Yeah, I'm sure I won millions while microwaving a DiGiorno." His reply was, "Come on, man," by text. "Do it for the meme." I took the crumpled ticket out of my jeans and moaned. It seemed like a mean joke. But whatever. All right, I thought, let's get this over with. I had no idea that moment would completely upend my world. I half expected the crumpled lottery ticket in my hand to disappear or catch fire like some nasty practical joke as I glanced at it. I launched my phone's lottery app with trembling fingers. My heart was racing like I had just finished a marathon, and the screen loaded more slowly than dial-up internet. "Scan your ticket," the application asked. I positioned my phone over the barcode while holding my breath. Processing. Then it appeared, $150,000. I blinked. I rubbed my eyes. Blinked once more. I must have been hallucinating after drinking too much Mountain Dew and DiGiorno. However, the figures remained unchanged. 5 millions. Money. I probably frightened the neighbor's dog with a noise I made. It sounds like a combination of a giggle, a gasp, and the sound you make when you stub your toe at 2 in the morning. Once more, Sam's SMS message appeared. "Have you looked it over yet?" My phone nearly flew across the room. $5 million wasn't used to buy a new Xbox. The money was for quit your job and move to a beach house. I went into overdrive with my thoughts. When you win the lotto, what exactly do you do? Google. Of course. What to do in the event that you win the lottery? First rule, keep it a secret. Yes. I'm not joking. For gas money, Jake would most likely sell my secret. Mom would become Oprah. A new kitchen is yours. You get a brand new vehicle. What about Dad? To put it mildly, I wasn't prepared for a 3-hour tax bracket lecture. I paced my room as if I were attempting to scuff the carpet. My mind was racing with a million ideas. Purchase a vehicle. Purchase a home. Purchase all of The Office's seasons on Blu-ray. I scrolled through several articles while I sat on my bed. Appoint a lawyer. Remain anonymous. Avoid spending too much too soon. Most winners disappear within a few years. Fantastic. There is no better way to destroy a mood than to be afraid about going bankrupt. I heard Jake's Jeep thunder into the driveway outside. As he spoke about the Dairy Queen girl who gave him her number, his laughing came through my window. Jake in his classic form. I took a quick look outside. He was there, flinging fries into his mouth while leaning against his brand new Jeep as if nothing were wrong. In the meantime, I was hiding a $5 million secret in my sock drawer. I considered informing Sam. But then I recalled how he unintentionally revealed it when I was infatuated with our math tutor during my sophomore year. I required a strategy. A good one. However, I had to conceal the ticket more well than a cliché. I jammed it into a worn-out book that nobody would ever open. Second advanced algebra. Even a burglar would probably leave that one alone. Once more, my phone buzzed. Sam. Hey, how are you? I smiled. Me. Yes. Remain relaxed. I'm doing fine. But within? My next step was already planned. I had no doubt that they would all want a share of this pie. I wasn't sharing though. I woke up the morning following my $5 million discovery feeling both excited and suspicious. Suppose I misplaced the ticket. What if someone discovered it? What if I were still working late nights at Target when I woke up, haggling with customers over expired coupons? I required a strategy. First step. Take this money to a secure location. I headed directly to the bank after telling my parents I had a morning shift. I Googled this as I was parked in my 2008 Honda Civic, which shook whenever I applied the brakes. How to deposit lottery winnings into a bank account without your family knowing. No useful Reddit posts. Lots of tell your mom right away suggestions. Which wasn't. It's happening. I had the impression that a neon sign was flashing over my head inside. Millionaire. I flinched every time the teller looked at me. However, an hour later, I left with a temporary card, a new account, and an appointment with my new financial advisor, Brian. Brian had the ideal appearance for a financial advisor. Polo shirt, khakis, and the smile that undoubtedly indicated, I promise you I won't lose all of your money. When I told him about my victory, he didn't even blink. Recently started a TED Talk on diversified investments. I gave a nod as though I understood. I'm curious if anyone has ever simply purchased a mansion and moved on. In the end, I bought investments in Amazon and Tesla because, well, 2-day shipping and Elon Musk. Operation New Zach will come next. Like a man on a mission, I struck them all. Skipped Walmart, headed straight for Nike, and in only 1 hour, I spent more than I had in the 2 years prior. Hoodies, Air Jordans, Ray-Bans, the necessities. I wasn't counting pennies at the clearance rack for the first time. Jake noticed right away as I walked into the house. New sneakers? He threw a football into the air and asked. I said, Uber, as if that clarified everything. It seems like driving random people around could get you $200 in sneakers in Jake's universe. I exchanged my Civic for a Tesla Model 3 a week later. Jake almost spat out his Mountain Dew when I pulled up for the first time. Nope, he chuckled. Isn't this comparable to renting a car from Uber? Yes, I shrugged. Testing it out. Nobody questioned it. My folks began making insinuations about bills. I was always getting made fun of by Jake for being the fancy Uber driver. In the meantime, I was creating a life that nobody was aware of. I felt liberated for the first time. Jake had his fan club and his Jeep. I had a new beginning and my secret money. However, secrets like mine, they never remain undetected for very long. After the Post Malone concert, with my ears still ringing from the bass and Sam's off-key singing, I drove back down Interstate 90 as the Tesla's autopilot hummed softly. With front row tickets, expensive merchandise, and enough adrenaline to last me a week, the night had been ideal. I was ecstatic, picturing myself driving my Tesla to late-night Taco Bell runs and never having to justify my inability to take spring break vacations. However, when I arrived into our driveway and saw that all of the lights were still on, my excitement began to fade. It was nearly midnight. Strange. I entered with the half expectation that everyone was asleep. Perhaps Jake had fallen asleep while holding his Xbox controller. Rather, like a horrible TV drama intervention scene, Mom, Dad, and Jake were waiting in the living room. Jake was sitting there with my black jacket, which I had inadvertently left behind. Too nonchalantly, he said, "Nice jacket." You know what I discovered in the pocket? During finals week, my stomach fell more quickly than my grade point average. You looked through my belongings? I shot back, trying to sound angry rather than scared. Jake smirked as if he had just scored a game-winning touchdown and shrugged. I felt chilly. I assumed you wouldn't mind. I didn't have to look very far though. There it was, this tiny jewel. He waved the Tesla financial report, which included my $100,000 investment. Mom's voice was hardly audible as her eyes grew wide. Zach, where did you obtain money like this? Dad leaned forward, wearing his trademark serious expression. Take a seat, right now, no way out. My heart was racing. Even if I claimed to have discovered it on the sidewalk, that wouldn't be acceptable. With a sigh, I combed through my hair. I confessed, the words tasting like defeat, I won the lottery. $150,000. Mom blinked quickly, as if she were updating her system. You didn't tell us that it was $150,000? Why? Dad massaged his chin, already in calculator mode. Teaching. Auto insurance. Debt from credit cards. Many family expenses might be covered by this. With that grin that made me want to hurl a pillow at his face, Jake, being Jake, leaned back. I suppose you may now get an actual car instead of renting a Tesla. Like a Toyota, I suppose? I tried not to chuckle, but I knew I wasn't prepared for the storm that was about to erupt. The living room had the atmosphere of a courthouse. And the defendant was unquestionably me. Mom paced. As if counting every dime they had ever spent, Dad scratched his temples. What about Jake? As if this were background noise, Jake simply browsed through his phone. Normal. Mom responded in a voice that was a mixture of sadness and incredulity. I can't believe you hid this from us. Zach, you have always had our support. Always. I tightened my jaw. Help me? You mean how I received a $25 gift card and you used all of your savings on Jake's Jeep? Jake laughed quietly to himself. Well, you did use it to get those lovely Air Jordans, correct? That was it. I lost my temper. You know what? Number, I firmly stated, I'm not giving you any money. Not for the mortgage. Not for auto loans. And most certainly not for Jake's upcoming Lake Michigan weekend getaway. Mom let out a gasp as if I had just announced my move to Mars. Your family is us. Families support one another. Funny, I retorted. When I was working double shifts at Target to pay for college, I don't recall much assistance. Dad made an effort to maintain harmony. We considered Jake's Jeep to be an investment in his future son. He required it for what purpose? I cut you off. Posts on Instagram? Driving by Starbucks? At last, Jake raised his head. Calm down, man. You're behaving as though I made them purchase it. I sounded sarcastic on the inside. All right, because it's not at all coercive to declare, I need a Jeep. The guilt trips were Mom's first. Zach, we tried our best. Perhaps you could lend a hand a bit. We have several bills that are past due. The water heaters have exploded. New brakes are needed for your dad's vehicle. I reached for my coat. I'm finished. Done, she said in a pejorative tone. Yeah, I said with a nod. Done being the backup plan. Done being the afterthought. I spent the night packing my laptop, chargers, and a stack of foil-wrapped leftover pizza pieces into a duffel bag along with my clothes. Jake didn't even make an effort to bid farewell. He was too preoccupied in FaceTiming his pals about a party. I went to Starbucks the following morning and ordered a venti caramel macchiato. I mean, I could finally afford one without having to check my bank account first. After that, I agreed to a lease for a little flat in the heart of the city that overlooked the Chicago River. It was a little space, as small as your bed and couch. However, it included bare brick walls, a refrigerator that didn't sound like it was dying, and nobody is requesting that I pay the Wi-Fi fee. While sipping my coffee on the balcony, I observed boats gliding down the river. And became aware of something. I was free for the first time in my life. A year went by. Additionally, life has a humorous way of keeping things in balance. Is that Jake's gleaming Jeep Wrangler? Totaled. After he strayed in a Walmart parking lot in an attempt to win over a girl. Yes, since nearly striking a cart return station is the epitome of romanticism. My folks, trying to keep up with Jake's never-ending expenses has left me drowning in credit card debt. Miami spring break vacations, the newest iPhone he simply had to have, and the emergency AirPods that he inexplicably misplaced 3 times. In the meantime, I prospered. No more eyebrows were raised by my Tesla. People simply thought I was another well-paid computer person. My investments yielded significant returns. And I invested in a tech startup that showed promise. Things detonated more quickly than a microwave popcorn bag. All of a sudden, I was more than just the quiet twin who worked Target shifts. For weekend trips, I was the one who arranged last-minute flights to Los Angeles. The man sharing photos of the Grand Canyon sunrise. Disney World? Twice, cross that off my bucket list. I even managed to get a picture of me holding a churro with Mickey Mouse. For what reason? It was like watching a montage of one of those motivational TikToks. The background music is low fidelity. The call, which was inevitable, then arrived. Zach, we need help. Over the phone, Mom's voice wavered. We're behind on everything. The house, the cars, even groceries. Jake added, sounding less arrogant than normal. Look, man, I screwed up. But we're family, right? I swirled my expensive Starbucks iced coffee and grinned bitterly. Maybe you should have invested in me instead of a Jeep. I ended the call. I'm half anticipating a callback. They didn't. However, fate had not yet finished with me. My phone rang one day. Grandpa was there. Hey kiddo, just checking in. I bet that lottery ticket changed everything, huh? I gasped. Wait, you knew? Of course, he said, laughing. I bought that ticket. Give it to your folks for your graduation. Always knew you were meant for something big. Tears came. Shame too. The only person who thought of me as more than a backup player was Grandpa. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.